Torquay United are a club in the Vanarama National League South, currently playing at Playmore Stadium. The stadium usually can only hold 6,000 at maximum capacity. Now I've used Football Manager to give them the biggest stadium in the world, now at 150,000. Or the joint biggest stadium, in fact. Because I've also done this to Hartlepool Suit Direct Stadium in the National League above Torquay. And also to Scarborough Athletic, who sit in the National League North at their stadium, the Flamingo Land Stadium, which is now my new favourite stadium in the world. I've also changed the club's attendances using the editor or to 150,000 as well for the 3 teams. Which means they should get that amount turning up to every single game. 150,000 Flamingos. So with just short of 150,000 people coming to every single home game, how will that affect the 3 clubs' finances compared to the start of the season? Could this extra influx of cash help these 3 teams climb out of non-league? And then, where's the limit? Could they reach the Premier League? Well, I'm going to give them 100 years to try at least. So I better get myself on holiday, and in the meantime, thank you all for getting us to 100,000 subscribers. Also, you, yes you, if you haven't subbed yet, why not? Come join us. Financially, it took only 1 season for the huge attendances to have a big impact. Thanks to the TCS skin, at the end of the season, we can see Torquay have the most money with £78 million in the bank, and they actually have nearly £60 million as a transfer budget going into the Vanarama National League because, yes, they got promoted in behind their local rivals Yeovil, both clubs quite local to me too. They went up through the playoff system, beating Worthing in the final. Scarborough, however, will be waiting another season before they can see if they can make an impact in the Vanarama National League. They finished in 5th place in the North Division with 81 points, missing out in the playoffs. But they have a nice budget still, £42 million in their budget with 28 in their transfer budget. I very much doubt they're going to spend that. Hartlepool. Let's take a look at Hartlepool then and see whether or not they managed to get themselves out of non-league football and back into. No, they didn't. 15th in the Vanarama National League. So I think it's fair to say that Hartlepool were the team that were affected the least. Because the other 2 teams, they did quite successful with their money. I know obviously Scarborough didn't get themselves promoted, but still they did alright. And this team has only just been relegated. So the finances, they're looking at £61 million, £43 million in their transfer budget. I'm guessing they did bring in loads of players, especially in the January. That's where you're looking at making the most out of their money because the transfer window would have closed by the time that they were seeing exceptional amounts of money in their bank balance. And as you can see, they actually spent quite a lot as well. They just didn't really do much. They finished in 15th. All 3 teams, by the way, have this weird thing where their attendance isn't quite 150, despite us obviously setting it to 150 as minimum and maximum, but around about 142.5. That's kind of where it lies for every single team in every single home fixture. We'll look at Hartlepool because obviously they brought quite a lot of players in. Their monthly wages is roughly around about the same as what they were previously. I'm not too sure about what Torquay's was. I only really looked at Hartlepool squad beforehand, 2.1. So Aaron Jarvis was their top scorer, but he was already there last season. So they didn't bring anybody in on exceptional wages. They're being smart about it, at least. Despite having huge budgets, Torquay could only bring in mainly free transfers. But they are now paying a new player 15 grand a week in the National League. You could say that it was worth it because back-to-back playoff promotions for Torquay United, who have already overtaken Hartlepool, who can only finish in 8th. Scarborough, though, still no promotion for them. So we now have a very interesting dynamic with all 3 teams in different divisions, so we can see how much this is going to impact these 3 clubs money-wise, reputation, because if they're still not at a very high level, they're going to keep dropping reputation, which means their attendances are going to drop as well eventually, because that is a dynamic number. And that is going to happen a lot more for the team in the Vanarama National North than it is in Sky Bet League 2. As we can already see a downward trend on Scarborough's reputation rating, whereas Torquay's reputation has increased up to 2 stars, meaning they will retain more fans each year. Hartlepool also trending downwards. What isn't trending downwards is their finances. Hartlepool now up to £93 million with a £65 million budget. Torquay, obviously, who just got themselves promoted, now have an £80 million budget with £122 million in the bank. Unfortunately, with Scarborough still being in the Vanarama National League North, they are going to have some trouble trying to attract players, but maybe money is the answer. They have £17 million in the transfer budget with £72 million in the bank. Out of the 3 teams, though, Hartlepool were the only team to spend money on transfers, but still, only 235k. However, wage-wise, they haven't started to overspend just yet. In Season 3, Scarborough finally climbed out of the National League North as champions. And they've already gone absolutely overboard with the spending. So I had a look at their transfer history. Nothing too strange. 23k spent this season, 4.9k spent last season, and a lot of it is loans, so Zealand would approve. And there's a couple down here. Brad Burton, 7.5k is the most that they spent on a transfer. But then they've already started planning for the Vanarama National League next season. And the signing that they made here, Aaron Collins, who is a free transfer, he's on 52k a week. 52. That is absolutely insane. He was playing at Bristol Rovers. I very much doubt we're giving them 52 grand a week either. But now he's gone into the Vanarama National League and he is on 52 grand a week. Aaron Collins is the most luckiest player in the world, because if you look at the rest of Scarborough's team, nowhere near. 15k is the most, which is actually a player who played for them that season, who they just signed. Now, I've got the in-game editor so we can see the current ability. He's only rated 90 current ability. That's not even the highest in their side. Not even one of the highest players that they actually own themselves. There's two players with a higher current ability. Alright, he's got a higher potential, but they're only on 4.2k. And they are still bringing in 142,000 fans every single game, so the money won't be slowing down just yet. Hartlepool were unlucky this season though, losing in the playoff final on penalties. But they are being sensible with their money, as their highest paid player is still only on 3.7k. They also currently have £135 million in the bank with a £93 million transfer budget. Torquay managed a respectable mid-table finish in League 2, and surprisingly they didn't spend that much money to get there either. Although they are giving this absolutely trash player £90,000 a week. But still, the reputation is rising and they are still bringing in big crowds. I wasn't really going to mention what happened the year after, because not a lot changed until I went to Hartlepool's actual team and I've seen who they signed and for how much. Because we've got players here, I mean, after Paul Walker, who's only on 8.5, which is still a lot of money in the Vanarama National League, we've got Mpanzu for 70k, formerly of Luton, left on a free transfer. Then we have Callum Robinson, formerly of Cardiff. He's on 96 grand a week. Then we have Semenyo, 100 grand a week from Bournemouth, free transfer. And then finally, Joe Aribo, the one that was playing in the Premier League for Southampton last season, is now in the Vanarama National League on a free transfer. Once again, 105 grand a week. Absolutely insane. And yet, they still can get themselves promoted, finishing 4th. Scarborough, down in 19th. Torquay, finished mid-table again. Not good for Torquay a year after, just narrowly missing relegation by 2 points. But Hartlepool have finally got themselves promoted, whilst also managing to lower Callum Robinson and Mpanzu's wages. First season in League 2, Hartlepool finished all the way down in 21st place, while Torquay found a playoff spot from nowhere. And Scarborough are now pushing to join them, spending 195k this season on transfers, which they finally do through the playoff final at Wembley the following season. Speaking of playoff finals, Torquay also lose the League 2 one. And Hartlepool are just doing nothing other than giving players £120,000 a week contracts. Fast forward 5 years then, and Torquay are still in League 2, having never getting promoted. And attendances are still averaging about the same amount. They just lost another playoff final, while Hartlepool are League 2 champions. But where are Scarborough, you ask? Well, they find themselves in Sky Bet League 1. They've leapfrogged both clubs, and they have a good reputation now. I noticed Torquay was around about the 4,000 mark, 4,200. They have managed to keep up their attendance of 142,000 on average. They also have £232 million in the bank and have a transfer budget of 112 million. So how have they managed to do it? Well, they've only just been promoted last season, winning the actual league. They won that after finishing second, obviously, in the 2030 season. So we've gone 5 seasons. The 4th season, they won another promotion, becoming champions. And the 5th season, they finished in 13th place in Sky Bet League 1. Their players that they've got, they still have gone a little bit silly, but not stupid high wages, just loads of people on good wages. So they've got some players here who, given that they're actually a higher current ability, 128 being one of them here, they're on roughly about 79 all the way down to like 48 of those types of players. They also have Pedro Neto, which is that's That's an unbelievable pickup, really. I know he's 35 and he's probably about to retire. He can't really run. But that is exceptional. They got him on a free transfer. It's a lot of money. I'm still impressed. Either way, I'm still quite impressed. 5 years on, and both Torquay and Hartlepool sit in mid-table in Sky Bet League 1. Attendances are still high, and there is astronomical amounts of money in the bank. So much so that Torquay are playing this Chinese centre-back 150 grand a week. And this winger they got from Liverpool, 170 grand a week. Hartlepool's attendances, however, have halved to around 80,000 every home game. I actually missed the season when this changed. 2023... they were still getting 143. Then, just in one season, bang, they've gone down to 76. So I don't know what that was. Oh, relegation. Relegation played a huge factor in this. They went from Sky Bet League 1 down to Sky Bet League 2. It's obviously crushed their reputation, and that was the crux of them losing fans. So possibly, relegation is the worst enemy in this experiment. Because now Hartlepool, I know it sounds stupid, they're only in Sky Bet League 1, they still have £154 million in the bank. But to have your attendance in one season and to get back up to the league that you were originally in, getting that amount of crowd in, they have never been able to recover from that since. So that is huge. Speaking of huge, Scarborough Athletic. Scarborough are now in the Championship, and they have just lost a playoff final to get into the Premier League. But they've been here for 4 seasons now, getting promoted in 2036 as winners of Sky Bet League 1. And they have been spending their money big time every single summer. Double figures, sometimes as high as £76 million one season to get to the top. And their reputation continues to rise. Also, I'm not sure how it's possible, but their maximum club attendance has gone up to 187,000 despite being limited to 150. They had another loss a season later in the semi-final this time. But it's too late. Hartlepool have caught them up and got promoted to the Championship also. And a year later, Torquay also got promoted as well and ended up finishing higher than both the two teams already in the Championship. So we're only 20 years into the future. It's only 2043 and all 3 clubs have managed to pull themselves up into the Championship. But who's going to make that one big step into the Premier League first? It took another 5 seasons to 2048 before Scarborough were the first club through the playoffs to reach the Premier League, and they have been buying some serious talents to do so as well, somehow putting themselves into £34 million in the red. Hartlepool have also been getting themselves financially in trouble and have still not progressed even doing so. It's worth noticing that their attendances has increased since being in the Championship, but still not to what they were pre-relegation. Anyway, Scarborough spent another £94 million in the Premier League, but could only accumulate 21 points and finish dead last. And Bournemouth, by the way, Bournemouth are champions, and they have been the most dominant team since they first won it back in 2038. And former Bournemouth manager Gary O'Neill is the Scarborough manager too. Attendances in the Premier League were maximum 150k. But we've seen what happened to Hartlepool when they were relegated. Will the same thing happen to Scarborough? Not as much as I first thought they would. They couldn't bounce back though, finishing in 5th. So now can another team in the next 70 years maybe even win the Premier League title? Well, in 2053, Hartlepool were the second team to achieve promotion despite Scarborough already climbing back to the Premier League before them after 2 seasons back in the Championship. But like Scarborough's first season, Hartlepool came straight back down. And once again, Hartlepool's attendances plummeted to halfway what they were before in the Championship, down into the 40,000s. And this is why I chose to do 3 different teams and from 3 different leagues. I wanted to see whether there would be variables in the clubs that I have chosen, and clearly they have, because one of the other teams been relegated and it didn't really affect their attendance much. However, every time Hartlepool was relegated, it's like halved, at least. In 2057, Scarborough finished in a Europa Conference League spot, and that following season went on to win the whole thing, beating Atalanta in the final, only dropping out in the semi-final of the Europa League next season, maxing out their capacity at the Flamingo Land Stadium almost every single week. In 2068, they won both the FA Cup and the League Cup. Torquay, by the way, did finally get to the Premier League, but they were relegated immediately 3 years before Scarborough's domestic cup double. And yes, it also had an effect on Torquay's attendances. Now, annoyingly, my save game file started in August every single time now, so we're going to have to just deal with it. We can see what happens anyway, but we're in 2080, so we've gone about another 10-12 years. Scarborough and Torquay are in the Premier League, And Torquay just keep going up and down. They've become a yo-yo side. They've actually stayed in the Premier League a couple of times, getting to 13th place. So that's not too bad. Scarborough, I don't think have actually gone down yet. Other than obviously the very first time. They haven't, they have. They've gone down 18th place there, 2076, and come back up as first place in the Championship. Still, they've got a Europa League too. 2080, they've just done it this season. Just gone. They won the Europa League final against Manchester City in the final. Unbelievable stuff. Now, looking at it, they have progressed the best, obviously, out of the three clubs in the amount of time that we've been given so far. 275 grand is the most that I've seen a player be bought for or be paid for. He is obviously exceptional. Now, Scarborough finances have never recovered since we've been looking at it, where they actually went into the red and they started spending money. It's never got back to it, despite obviously still getting 145 pretty much for exciting games, because it looks like in the Premier League at home they've dropped down to like 90,000, but when they're getting really important games like the Europa League semi-final here, 145,000. So maybe Scarborough's reputation was damaged a little bit, and finally that attendance weird thing kicked in when they got relegated. We can see that actual reputation is now close to 8,000, which is really high out of 10,000, which you potentially get. Torquay, if you look at them, they've gone up and down so many times. I won't be surprised if... it's not actually too bad when you see the Playmore. 53,000. Sometimes they actually build a new stadium, which is really annoying in these experiments, but all three clubs haven't done that yet. It's probably because they don't have a lot of money, which, hey, it's weird that they've managed to get to the Premier League and still do it. Now, the other club, Hartlepool, they're still in the Championship, and they've been there for a while. They came up 2 seasons ago, went back down last season in last, but they spent a long time in the Championship before they ever come up, and no other trophies either. But financially, 86 million. They actually had the most money out of the three, which you couldn't write it, could you? They're in the league below, and they have the most money. And if you look at attendances, they're actually pulling in some big attendances last season. So this was obviously in the Premier League, 56,000. It's more than one of the other teams. I went on forward to the turn of the new century, and still all three clubs can't establish themselves as Premier League sides, as Hartlepool are now relegated again. Scarborough has enjoyed a good 20 plus seasons though in the top division, and won 1 more Conference League and 2 more Europa Leagues. However, Torquay have also won themselves a couple of European trophies and an FA Cup before dropping back down to the Championship. Nothing for Hartlepool though. Torquay, however, are the only one of the 3 teams still with a minus bank balance. Another 10 more years and things are looking very similar, with Scarborough in 5th place, Torquay surviving in the Premier League, and Hartlepool getting relegated again. They've pretty much yo-yoed up and down quite a few times. Torquay have enjoyed some stability in the league, but no trophies. Whereas Scarborough have been finishing as high up as 5th place on multiple occasions and won back-to-back European trophies again. And in the Champions League, they've got as far as the quarter-final, which, to be fair, was way back in 2092. Attendances have been fluctuating from 80,000 all the way up to 146,000 in the FA Cup, funny enough. But that's down to their minimum attendance being 75,000 now. And Hartlepool's is the lowest out of the 3 at 37,500. Well, I've simulated all the way to the 100 years, and one of the 2 teams that's not Scarborough has made a beeline for the most trophies in this experiment. So the year is 21-23. Torquay United are in 8th place, which is Europa Conference League spot. Scarborough down in 15th. That's a drop-off from where they were. Hartlepool, every single time we come back, it seems like Hartlepool's just been relegated. In fact, that was the first time that they were in the Premier League for a while. They stayed out since the last time we looked at it, about 13 years ago. They just stayed in the Championship, got promoted last season, gone back down. Never won another trophy. Like, just some Sky Bet Championships. That's it. So, unlucky Hartlepool, I guess. We can take a look at the rest of the stuff. They've still got the same stadium. They've got an okay balance. The schedule, they are clocking in around about 41,000. So if you take a look at their club details, their minimum attendance is 37,500. So roughly, as you can see there, their average is around about 43,000, but the maximum 1.8. But it's never going to be that. So that's quite interesting how Hartlepool were the league above the other 2, probably the highest reputation out of the 3, and they were the worst one. Easily they were the worst one. But Torquay United, as I mentioned, started winning some trophies. Let's have a look, though, at the rest of the Premier League, because Scarborough, what have you been doing since? Still at the Flamingo Land Stadium. I love that 100 years' time, it's still called that. Obviously, I know. Overall balance, 19,000, or 19 million, sorry. They are clocking in similar numbers to Hartlepool. Am I right? Oh, no. Oh, wow. Yeah, they got lovely attendances. Sometimes even in the Premier League, over 100,000 still 100 years into the future. So that's fantastic that they've managed to keep hold of their attendances all that time in the future. We can see there the minimum is 75,000. The average, by the looks of it, is 91,000. So that's fantastic. So we're all happy there. I think that's really good. Really, really good. Their history, though, is quite interesting because they've also won something since. So 2103, 2104, they've won an FA Cup. They've won one more FA Cup in 2116. Only one Carabao Cup, which I was quite surprised with. So, as you can see, they've stayed in the Premier League, but they have dropped off a little bit in the last couple of seasons. And their competitions, I do want to see whether they've actually done anything in Champions League since Champions League. No. So that was the last time we've seen. They got to the quarterfinals again. The furthest they got was the quarterfinals of the Champions League. That's what Torquay has got to beat in regards to the Champions League. But in regards to trophies, you've got 2, 6, 9, probably the Carabao Cup as well. I'd go 10. I wouldn't really count the Championship one. 10 trophies. What has Torquay United done? Well, they finished further up. Their finances, 250 million. They're doing all right. They are financially secure. They've got an unbelievable transfer budget as well. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Their schedule, they are clocking in less than Scarborough in the league. We can see there's a few 50s in there every now and then in an FA Cup, etc. It's weird how the FA Cup gets weird big numbers. 70,000 there against Chelsea. So they are clocking in a little 37,500. That's the same as Hartlepool, isn't it? That was what it is. But their average attendance is basically a little bit higher than what Hartlepool's was. But it's all down to the trophies. And look at that. 2 FA Cups, 2 Europa Leagues, which they've won recently, and 3 Europa Conference Leagues. So it isn't the 10, but 7 is a good goal, considering not so long ago they didn't have any. And as you can see, their time in the Premier League, they stayed there for a while. They've had an upwards trajectory, and they've obviously played in the Champions League as well, so they need to see what they can do. Round of 16. Round of 16 is the furthest that Torquay United got. So, by default then, the winner of this competition is Scarborough Athletic. But I think it's very interesting the fact that we've had 3 very different goals at this, I would say, with the same experiment. Hartlepool was probably a complete failure, if I'm honest, Hartlepool. Torquay, they had some ups and downs, but they really propelled themselves up in that last, 100, in that last, 10 years, out of the 100. And Scarborough, the surprise package, because at the start, they struggled. They couldn't even get out of the Vanarama National League North. And here they are, the most successful team out of the 3, been sat in the Premier League for I don't know how long. For ages. But there we have it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed experiments just like this. And if you did, here is another one. I trapped Jude Bellingham, Erling Haaland, and Kylian Mbappe at clubs in the Vanarama National League to see who could do better.